Is there also good news for somebody listening that's like, I haven't had a good night's sleep in decades? Like, can you become a better sleeper?
Absolutely, yeah. So there are lots of things that actually help people sleep more deeply and more soundly. And the first thing to do, of course, is to make sure you don't have sleep apnea. And you can't really tell if you sleep alone whether you have sleep apnea. You need to either put a camera on yourself all night or have your cell phone record the sound of your sleeping to make sure you're breathing all night long in a very nice, even pattern. And you don't have sleep apnea. People with sleep apnea stop breathing for 30 seconds or more. And then they, have to, wake up to breathe. So that will destroy your sleep if you've got sleep apnea. So get that treated. And there are, sleep physicians all over the world who can help you get it treated. You can also have a bed partner who can just watch you sleep and tell you whether or not there's times you stop breathing. And
Can I stop you right there and ask you a question?
Yeah.
So would you recommend that as one takeaway from this, a very important thing that you could do for yourself is to hit the voice memo on your own phone and do a voice recording or a video recording of yourself sleeping?
Yeah.
And if you notice any pause or gasping, or my husband was making this sound,
yeah.
I was like, what the heck? And I would reach over Dr. Poe and plug his nose.
Yeah.
Which I think is the worst thing to do, because I'm like, would you shut up? I think he's about to start snoring. I'm like, what the? And it turns out it was sleep apnea.
Yeah, yeah.
Why is sleep apnea for someone who may have never heard that term? Why is that such a bad thing for your health and for your brain health?
Yeah, it's really bad because that stopping breathing for 30 seconds to a minute makes your oxygen in your blood get lower and lower. And it gets to low rates that you would never achieve without panicking if you were awake. So my blood oxygen is 98%, if not better, all the time. If I hold my breath for as long as I possibly can, I can get it to 91%. But people with sleep apnea, it gets down to 60%.
Oh.
And that's really bad because all night long, your heart it's a big muscle that's working really hard to keep your whole body perfused, and it becomes anoxic. It starts to work without oxygen, which damages the muscles of your heart.
So basically what's happening is that gasp for air, or the thing that my husband was doing, that's a signal from your heart that it's not getting enough oxygen?
It's a signal from your brain saying, we're dying here, wake up. And so it wakes you up so you can breathe again. I mean, it's really...
That's scary.
It is scary. You do not want to live with sleep apnea any longer than you possibly can. You want to get it treated. And there are simple ways that work, but one of the problems is with sleep apnea is that as we get older, at age 40, 50 on, we lose 1% of our muscle tone for every year of our life. So on average, if we don't work out and work against it, we're losing it. And muscles in our airway are the ones that keep our airways open all night long. And if we're losing muscle tone in our airway as well, when we fall asleep and those muscles relax, plus that lost muscle tone, will cause those airways to collapse. And so your diaphragm will be pulling down, like trying to breathe, but the airway itself is collapsed. So then you need to wake up, reinstall the muscle tone to those muscles and open them up and breathe again. And so just getting older is a risk factor for sleep apnea. Now, one way you can work against it is to exercise your muscles, your airway muscles. You can.
How do you do that?
Play the trumpet, the didgeridoo. You can.
What's
sing.
the didgeridoo?
That's an Australian big long. It sounds like. It's really hard to play. It takes a lot of muscle tone, and or you could be an opera singer. You can sing for 4 hours a day, and that really is works to keep your.
But what about for the rest of us who don't have a trumpet lying around?
Right. Well, sing in your car, sing in your shower. Sing as often as possible. But another thing you can do is to maintain a low weight, because fat around your airway muscles will also start to impinge upon them and cause them to collapse more easily. For some people, it's not anything to do with fat or aging. It's just the way that their jaw and tongue are located, and so For some people, a dental device that keeps their tongue forward helps. For other people, sleeping on their side helps because it's when their tongue falls back against their back of their throat that it closes their airway. So sleeping on your side, and how do you keep sleeping on your side?
A pillow wall.
You could do a pillow wall.
Or you prop your foot against your spouse.
Right.
Right? See, I shouldn't have been pinching his nose, Dr. Poe. I should have just pushed him over to his side and then propped him up with my foot.
Prop him up with your foot or a pillow. Or some people sew a tennis ball into their back of their T-shirt, their nightshirt. So
that sounds
uncomfortable.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, so they move to their side as soon as they fall.
I prefer a pillow wall.
Right.
Is there any difference in terms of the recommended perfect night's sleep between men and women?
That's a good question. So for women who are cycling with menstrual cycle, their sleep quality changes over the period of time of the month, so over the 28 days. That doesn't necessarily mean your sleep amount should change, but just be aware that the quality of sleep might be different, and don't be afraid because your body will compensate. It's okay to go a week or two without great quality sleep. You can make up for it in the next week or two. So don't panic. Insomnia is an entirely different thing that lasts, a month or 2 months. And when you go that long, 2 months without good quality sleep, then your body starts to lose, I think, some of the critical functions that can't be made up with getting sleep again. So.
What is insomnia? I hear the term. It's one of those terms, insomnia, that you hear thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
What technically is it?
That's a great question because there are different types of insomnia. There's insomnia that's not explained by anything else, and then there's insomnia that's explained by other things like stress-related insomnia. When the stressor goes away, the insomnia goes away. There's insomnia due to, the circumstances around you. So there's also insomnia due to drinking too much caffeine too late in the day. And if you're sensitive to caffeine, you will lie awake with your head spinning, can't go to sleep. But that's really because you've blocked the sleep signal, the sleepiness signal in your brain with caffeine. So, and there's sleep onset insomnia, people who lie there 45 minutes, an hour and a half without being able to fall asleep. And then there's insomnia where you wake up in the middle of the night or 3 a.m. and you can't get back to sleep. So
let's take 2 of those.
Okay.
Let's talk about the you called it onset insomnia,
onset,
sort of that, because I told our social media. So when I knew that we were going to get to talk to you, Dr. Poe, I went to Instagram. And just 24 hours ago, put up a story that you were going to be on. Mm-hmm. We have 97 pages of questions. And one of the big ones that we have is about thoughts racing at night and an inability to fall asleep.
Right.
And can you just talk a little bit
Absolutely.
about the connection between either racing thoughts or stress and your kind of nervous system being on edge?
Yeah.
And how that is impacting the ability to get into a sleep cycle, and then what we can do about it?
Yeah, there's a lot of great research going on right now about that. And some of the things we're learning is that, well, what I mentioned, caffeine too late in the day will block your body's signal that it's sleepy. As you are awake longer and longer, the energy packets of your brain, adenosine triphosphate, ATP, that's the energy packet. It gets broken down as we use energy in our brain and in our entire body. And when it gets broken down, those 3 adenosine molecules that are stuck together get broken down into 2 adenosine molecules, then 1 adenosine molecule, and then the adenosine is just free floating. And that's a beautiful signal for your brain to say, hey, it's time to go to sleep. There's too much free adenosine here. We need to restore the battery of our brain and our entire body. But
is adenosine floating around part of what the wave comes in and cleans up?
So no. In fact, what happens is that the wave is cleaning up misfolded proteins and other junk.
All the other crap I did to my brain. Okay.
Adenosine actually gets rebuilt into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, gets put back together into 3 molecules that then is your energy for the next day.
Okay.
And actually for REM sleep, your REM sleep is time of active energy burning in your brain as well. But so... Let's see, where was I?
I can ask you the question again. So you were talking about the fact that adenosine goes from 3 molecules to breaking apart to free floating.
Thank you.
And then that signals to the brain that, hey, it's time for us to fall asleep.
Yeah,
and
so there are adenosine receptors in our part of our brain called our basal forebrain. That is the part of the brain that supplies the acetylcholine all over. And so that is the part that senses how much adenosine is in your brain, and that receptors for adenosine, those sensors for adenosine, are blocked by caffeine. So you don't know how much adenosine you have in your brain, free adenosine, when you have caffeine. And it looks to your receptors and to your cells in your basal forebrain that, there's no free adenosine. Look, our receptors are not occupied by adenosine. We're fine. We're awake. And so it won't allow you to shut off the acetylcholine system, which is that alertness and arousal system. And it's fine if you need to do it short term, but if you want to go to bed and you still have caffeine in your system, it's going to prevent you from feeling sleepy. You'll be lying there in bed, thoughts spinning.
So give us
awake.
the time. So how far away from going to sleep do you want to stop all caffeine intake?
That depends on the person. And it depends. For me, I'm very sensitive to caffeine.
Yep.
So it takes me a good 14 hours to process it. So 14 hours before I want to go to sleep, I have to count back, and that could be my last time I intake caffeine, because I guess dogs are also very sensitive, and they don't have the enzymes to break it down, and so I'm more like a dog in that sense. But other people, I don't know why, but maybe they just have the liver enzymes to break down caffeine fast. Or they can have a cappuccino at dinner and fall asleep just fine.
So you're one of the most renowned sleep researchers in the world. What is your sleep routine?
That's a great question.
Can you explain why we sleep and why it's so important?
Sleep is great for the immune system. It's great for cognition.